then the idea of the show, once, we were like, hey, what do you think about having our record release and a show and the beer release all at the same time? And that spawned a whole nother bunch of emails that, and then we kind of just hit the ground running. Jason and I are pretty good at kind of, I'd like to think we are anyway, thinking outside the box and trying to do different stuff, not to advertise, but kind of as more like to bring attention to the band.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope that you've been having a glorious week. I most certainly have been. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I'm also asking you to rate it and write a review. Now, why am I asking you to do that? Well, you have to imagine that when someone is looking for a new podcast to listen to invest their time in, what do? They scroll down, they look at those reviews, and if those reviews are favorable, well, they're most probably going to give that podcast a chance. So by you writing a review for the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, you might actually be the person that helps sway someone's decision to become a future Vox and Hops head, and that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, on today's episode, I'm with Blake Harrison and Jason Hamacher of Zealot RIP, as well as with Jeff Hancock of DC Brau, and we're going to talk about our brand new collab, Ambush Predator. This is Vox and Hops episode number 301.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Blake Harrison, Jason Hamacher of Zealot RIP, and Jeff Hancock of DC Brau, and we're about to hang out because about a few months ago, we all did something really cool together. We did a beer collab, and I'm excited about it. Ambush Predator, the Mexican-inspired lager, right? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So let's just start with a very simple, how is everybody doing tonight? How are you feeling? How was this today for you?
Très bien. See, that's my little menu French that, I took 5 years of French, and French up to French 5. Wasn't in high school for 5 years. But, 25 years later, it's hard to remember anything but ça va and très bien.
Is anyone else surprised Blake from Pig Destroyer took French?
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised.
For the intents and purposes of this interview, Jason, I am Blake from Zealot RIP.
Yeah, but Blake from Pig Destroyer was the one that was in school.
Yep, I took French. That's true.
That's amazing. I took Latin and failed it miserably.
Really?
Yeah, so bonjour.
Bonjour. I grew up in Quebec, so French there was no other option here. How are you guys doing, Jason? Jeff, how are you guys doing?
Doing very well.
I'm good, man.
Amazing. Ambush Predator. I rarely ever ask an origin story on Vox and Hops because it's one of the most annoying questions that bands get asked.
Yes, it is.
But I am curious. But I am curious as to how this beer came to life. I'd love to hear exactly everything about it because I came in, I think, late in the loop to get my involvement in this collab. So I am curious, how did Ambush Predator come to life, and who wants to take that?
You didn't really come in late in the loop. You actually came in pretty early because for the Brutal North America, and we can kind of tag team this, Jason and Jeff, but the Brutal North America, you wanted Zealot RIP to be part of that.
Yes.
And that was with
Commonwealth
Brewery in Virginia. And something went awry there and we couldn't work it out in time. So once Commonwealth couldn't do the collab with us and you, I remember our first beer collab with Champion Brewery in Virginia and Jeff being at the show saying, well, we'll do a beer with you guys. And then I was like, well, why don't we just do that with Vox and Hops and DC Brau? And then I think I emailed Jeff or texted him, and then I'll let someone else pick up the story. It's kind of convoluted after that.
Yeah. The text came through. God, I want to say shit, man. 2020 and part of 2021 being kind of the weird mulligan-ass COVID years that they are. Yeah, it started from text, and then the information started kind of flying back and forth, fast and furious. And for me, with my just inherent short-term memory problems, I was like, all right, let's take it to email. So we started hammering out the beer, the details about the show that we ended up doing for their album release, and the beer release came together. But yeah. Blake, Jason, and I being kind of beer heads like that. Blake and I more so. I know Jason's kind of new to the booze fold, but he's here and we're happy to have him. But yeah, it was
Former
good.
straight edge.
Most of the way I approach collabs with bands, we worked with Darkest Hour before, Pie Tasters, Local Ska Legends, and
The Sword.
my kind of impetus for things is
cool.
just like, what do you want to drink when you're on stage, when you're like sweating your nuts off and you just kind of want to hydrate, but you still want to drink? So that kind of laid the groundwork for it. Mexican Lager came out as far as an idea. And then, the recipe kind of evolved from there. And then we got you that little video footage of us kind of tasting, it was like almost like our, what would you call it? Like your idea.
20 minutes of nothing.
20 minutes of nothing. But we kind of worked with some existing DC Brau beers to inspire the recipe. And we kind of took it from there and ran with it, and they were great to work with.
Amazing. You covered lots of ground right there. I want to break down some things. You are correct, Blake, that I did reach out to you to be part of Brutal North America, where I released 22 collabs.
Supposed to be 23, right?
It was supposed to be 23. Supposed to be 24, actually.
Oh, wow.
But another one did not pan out. But all across North America, where I teamed up metal breweries or metal-themed breweries or breweries that had some metal humans that work there with past guests of the podcast to create a collab for their band. So sadly it didn't pan out, but I am happy that you did. And I remember seeing an email exchange of trying to get DC Brau as a part of Brutal North America, but the timing was just way too tight because we were near the end of everything.
Yeah,
It just didn't work out, and that's perfectly cool. You also touched on a new found person that enjoys alcohol. So Jason, you mentioned you were straight edge. So talk to me about this transition in your life, if you are open to speaking about that.
Yeah, totally. Like I was straight edge. I was like in my 30s. I mean, newer being I've drank for like 12 years at this point, but I was straight edge in my 30s, and then I was put into, there were two very distinct scenarios that made me question, why am I doing this? One was this is going to go real deep. I happened to be at a cockfight in a village in the deep recesses of Peru. No joke.
This is no lie, Matt. This is just typical Hamacher.
Yeah, totally. And it was in a village run by a generator, and this guy came in with 6 armed guards, all heavily armed with the AK-47s. I'm the only white guy there. And so he immediately beelined over to me, and he was one of Peru's most famous pisco producers. And he was like, "Hey, you should try this." I was like, "Hey, I don't drink." And he was like, "What? For friendship?" and I faked it. I faked it. And then I was kind of like, if this guy's either has made enough money to have permanent armed security, or his stuff is that good anyway, like, what am I rebelling against? Like, so I felt I wasn't being kind of honest to the spirit of why I chose that lifestyle to begin with. Then the second time was I was actually on tour with a band in Israel, and I grew up, my dad's a minister, and I got invited to a house in Galilee where allegedly, take the faith out of it, where allegedly first miracle is Jesus turns water into wine. I was like 2 blocks over, at someone's house for dinner, and they were like, do you
Drink this water, it'll turn the wine in your stomach.
No, they were like, do you want a glass of wine with dinner? And I was like, no, I don't drink. And like, what are you, Baptist? I was like, well, actually, I did grow up Baptist. And then it was like this, another big question. I was like, why am I not doing, like, why am I restricting myself? It wasn't like I'm trying to go out and party, but why? And then the moment where I actually made the decision was I did a bunch of documentary work in Syria, and I was in Damascus. I was actually on a roof down the street from where Paul became Saul, in the ancient town of Damascus. And this guy had made wine. He's like, would you like to try some wine? I was like, yep, I'm in. And then that kind of changed everything. And then the first actual beer that I had that I didn't grimace.
Which he's gonna get to that question for you anyway.
No,
What was your
keep
first
going.
beer?
which was the one that I drank the whole thing was a Chimay triple.
Really? Well, that's heavy. That's a big.
Yeah.
It's
sweet.
heavy, but it's I find that like a
Caramel.
lot of people that don't drink really like Chimay. But you can't find it everywhere here.
That's true.
And it's $19 a bottle or something like that.
9%.
But it's super expensive.
Yeah, it was heavy. But that was like my turn. And then I got being involved professionally in the world of history and all of that. I got super nerdy into all of the Belgian things. And then here we are.
And here we are now. We're about to drink a Mexican-inspired lager. Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music, and craft beer. Now, what are we all drinking on our sides that we're going to virtually share tonight? Blake, you go first.
I'm drinking the Ambush Predator. I figured in my cephalic carnage glass. I figured, I would probably be true to this. And if Jason, I want to do a little humble brag here. If Jason was super into the Belgians, he would have gone to Cantillon. I've been to Cantillon. Toward the facility.
My beverage.
But you can edit that out, man.
Jason, what are you enjoying on your side tonight?
Yeah, I gotta give it.
So I just hammered this. It's not even beer at all. I'm on a detox. I had Chlorophyll.
Wow. Okay.
With Topo Chico carbonated water.
Topo Chico. Now, what's that? That's a brand of carbonated water. Is that it?
Yeah. Have you ever seen
Got
that
it.
stuff?
I have not, but
Dude, I don't know what the deal is. It's actually Mexican, comedically enough. I didn't think about it, but it's got the carbonation bubbles are way smaller, and it has a lot more of them than normal. But I think that's just the way it is.
Interesting.
So that's my carbonated water of choice.
Jeff, what are you going to be enjoying tonight? Very nice.
Oh, nice.
Octoberfest. That unfortunately is also through at the brewery, but Octoberfest being my favorite season of the year, be getting into some of those.
Sorry, Jeff, you lagged right as you presented the beer. So can you just say Octoberfest and then keep going again from after that?
Yes, it is Octoberfest from the brewery that I am part owner of and brewmaster of, but it's our Octoberfest. We do it every year around Octoberfest time, which is now Oktoberfest are one of those styles that keep getting released earlier and earlier every year. We released ours, I think, in like the first-ish, second-ish week in August, which is just kind of laughable to me. But
okay, let's do it in April next year.
Yeah, it's just gonna hit that like. All right, now we've gone through all the months.
Now it's Easterfest.
Yeah, Oktoberfest with the Easter colors.
Yeah, completely.
You know, Matt, I've got to point out the last time you and I did this, I was hungover from shooting a Zealot video.
That's
so
true.
I was not drinking.
That's true.
So I don't remember if you remember that. Yeah, it was last October. Or
we're about a year apart.
Yeah, it's about a year apart.
Yeah.
Wow. On my side, I am drinking a Mexican lager, although it's not Ambush Predator. It's something from a Quebec brewery called Knowlton Co. It is their Mexican lager. Different than yours. This one clocks in at 4.6%. How much is Ambush Predator? Because I was looking and I never found that detail.
I don't think that made it onto the final label. It's
4.5. It says it right here.
Oh.
I don't know where my camera is.
Anyway.
Amazing. So
that's kind of our standard for kind of where we operate in the approachable ABV lager range at the brewery.
I'm very interested to like go right into this beer when you said that you inspired like from other recipes that you got going on to make the Mexican-inspired lager. Talk to us exactly about what this beer is, what went into it, which hops. I know that's inspired because there's a bunch of Euro hops in it, which most of them wouldn't have, right? So take us into what actually is this beer. What is this beer?
So before I get into it, I'll do a brief little kind of thing. Essentially, all the beer that Mexico produces now was more or less kind of brought over from Germany. German immigrants, just like most European countries at some point in time, last couple hundred years, decided to expand. Bunch of Germans moved down to Mexico and, of course, brought all their amazing lager brewing techniques with them. So Mexican lager, by definition, is almost like kind of a typical, like it can be a light lager or like an amber lager, close to a Dunkel's. But this one is on the lighter side. It uses our traditional German yeast. We couldn't get a actual Mexican lager yeast in time, which would have been kind of fun to play with. But yeah, German Pilsner malt, a little bit of rice as an adjunct, just because that helps, give a fermentable and make the beer a bit lighter in body, easier to drink. Drinkability is what people say. And then we used some German hops and Czech hops. The Czech hop is called Zatz. It's a famous aroma variety used in Pilsner or Kel. It's kind of like the single hop, the standard for the style. And then we use some Hallertau Tradition. So it's got a little bit of a nice aroma there to complement the sweet malt, the little bready malt nose, and just enough bitterness to kind of counteract the sweetness.
Amazing. On my side, this one was hopped with Hallertau Blanc and Triple Pearl. So cheers to you all. Happy to be finally hanging out, sharing a brew with you all. Jason is in detox, but
there we go. Laces forward. Woo!
I'd like to continue with you, Jeff. You also mentioned that you always ask bands when you do a collab, what do you want to drink on stage? So take me to the Mexican lager, Zealot. Why did you guys want to be drinking this on stage? I can understand why, because it's crushable, it's not too heavy. I know, Blake, you're a huge fan of stouts.
Yeah.
But you did release, 2 Mexican lagers in 1 week.
Yeah, with the 3 Floyds for a Pig Destroyer, my other band. Basically, I looked at Brau's, and I know you asked Jeff, but I looked at Brau's like current, I guess you say lineup, and it didn't seem like they really had a Mexican lager. I know that they're mildly popular nowadays. I didn't want to make a triple imperial donut molasses maple leaf stout that the brewery can't sell. At the same point, the brewery needs to sell this too. So that was kind of my idea. And, I did, like you said earlier, I really wanted something drinkable, something slammable. And it wasn't, talking to the other guys in the band, not just Jason, it was kind of that all around. And I think Jeff kind of agreed with that. DC Brau's got some great IPAs and stuff, but I think their strongest beer is their pills. And the other co-owner really agrees with me on that too. And, I can drink that pills like it's water. Not that it tastes like water. I just love it. So I kind of wanted something along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah. And I figured it would be, if anyone out there has seen Zealot perform, they work it up, they turn it up really fucking quick, and they need that they need that adult hydration, and that is the form of ambush predator. But it's one of those things, like if you want to abuse it a bunch or a little bit with some friends and like shotgun it and get dirty with it, you can do that. But you can also like sit and savor it. So it's a little bit of both worlds. And being a lager, lagers are definitely on the come up now again. IPAs aren't ever going to leave, but yeah, a good lager, I feel speaks volumes to people. And sometimes even though hops are being more accepted in the heavier uses and in the IPAs and hazies and all the various sub IPA styles, nothing accounts for a good lager. And I feel like majority of metalheads out there would have to agree.
Yeah.
I definitely think metalheads in a pit, enjoy something crushable. They want to drink a lot. That's a metalhead culture.
Going to a show, man. You like craft beer, and how many times have you been to a show and you might have had one too many 19%, and you're not really feeling the show. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. You got to stay in the moment. You want to stay fresh.
Exactly.
Jeff, you have done a bunch of collabs with other bands. I spoke to Mike about doing one with Darkest Hour. I am curious, what are some of the biggest differences, challenges? I know that these guys are super easy to work with, but other bands are not always, and I discovered that by doing Brutal North America. What are the biggest differences, challenges doing a collab with a band versus another brewery?
You got to name, Matt. Name, Matt.
I'll be honest, and this is totally not a political answer, but all the bands we've collabed with have gone super smoothly. Thankfully, people, just like I trust the professional musicians to make the good music. They definitely entrusted me to like put a good product together and take the feedback and kind of materialize it and have a product. Some of the challenges, I would say it's almost kind of reversed, depending on if you're working with a brewery that you have a prior relationship with, or if you're kind of doing like the first date tender, yo, bro, I swiped left. Like, let's talk and make some beer. And sometimes people just want to flex, and they can go down rabbit holes about certain things where, I could liken it to trying to write a song. I also DJ, so like trying to make a track. Where like you get stuck on the minutia, and it's like you just need to get the bones, and the rest of the shit will sort itself out.
I really feel. I'm sorry, Jeff.
No,
I really spoke to that in one of our many thousands of emails we exchanged about this. How easy I thought it was to work with you, and it's not just with the brewery stuff. Like with my relationship with Pig Distillery and Three Floyds is very easy too, but with you guys, it was great. And it was very like, okay, this sounds good. All right, we're going to do this. And here's your marching orders, Blake. Jeff, here's what I'm going to take care of. And that was it. And that was really like you said, there wasn't a first date moment ever. Like we've known each other for 5 or 6 years at this point. So,
yeah.
Well, the other side of that, one of the things that's really cool about what I was really psyched about this, Matt, was, our first show was at the Swedish Embassy, like we've talked about before. But Brau gets distributed into Sweden, and the Brau Pils can actually has Swedish language on the can. So they hooked us up with doing beer for our very first show at the embassy.
Amazing.
So we were kind of waiting to do.
So out of like the 6 Zealot shows, Jeff has been 2, 3, or 4 of them.
He's basically in the band.
Yeah, I think before the brewery, it was pre-pandemic at High Days in Mount Pleasant, something like that.
Oh yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Talk to me about the brew day. Were you guys actually there for the brew day, or the footage that you guys sent me, was that a faked? Was that a faked brew day? Because I understand that
was fake
sometimes.
And okay. I don't know what happened during brew day, so that's all Jeff. Because we weren't there.
It was not faked. It was emotionally honest.
It was staged.
There you go. That's a much better word. I'm going to keep that for my repertoire.
Lip sync.
Hey, I'm actually the only elected politician on this Zoom call. So let me tweak here.
That's amazing. Yeah, brew day went good. I love brewing on our original system. We have an original 15-barrel system. Pardon me, which for those out there that don't know what exactly that means, we can produce about 500 gallons a turn. So brewed this beer, super straightforward. It's, if you're not into beer, it's kind of like, all right, there's a little activity, wait 3 hours. There's a little bit more activity and wait 4 hours. But no, everything went great.
Honestly, Jeff, I think this is more of a beer podcast than it is a metal podcast.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, feel free to switch gears on me anytime. I can fucking go on about
Well,
this.
nobody gives a shit what type of guitar we're using in this podcast.
Not for this episode. This episode, we're talking about Ambush Predator.
Exactly.
Something that I do love about the beer, the thing that I've experienced the most about it, is that can art. Talk to me about the label, how that came to be, why you chose that song title to be the beer's name. I'm interested in all that.
So I was the one that actually hooked up with Mike. Mike had done a couple of labels for Brau in the past, and we were trying to do something with someone that knew how to do a label and do it quick and do it well. And then Ambush Predator was the name of the first single off the album. And we had done the video for it. And so Mike had moved out to the Virginia countryside, and I was going out there all the time. And we just met up one night. There's a brewery in Front Royal, Virginia. And he's one of the designers that really gets it from conversation. And so one of the concepts was, should we just put the album art on the can? And we all kind of thought it'd be cooler to do something a little bit more original.
Yes, I definitely. I love the album art. I just don't think it pops on a can. It pops in a 12 by 12 format, but.
Right. And so one of the things that we were talking about, like Peter, our bass player, does the entire art aesthetic of the band. And so we did not want to try to do something that recreated Peter's style, but something that kind of echoed the era that Peter references. Peter uses a lot of 16th century, like pirate original art pieces and like takes inspiration from that. And so being that it was Mexican spotted lager, I'm really into, Central American, what do I want to call it? Like shamanism. There's an amazing book called it's one of my favorite books called Jadu, about this shaman, and the apex of this story is that this person becomes his apprentice. It's a nonfiction book, and they're trying to turn themselves into a jaguar. So, Mike and I were like nerding out for several hours. It's like, dude, what if we made it with like a shaman turning into a jaguar and ripping someone's heart out? I was like, that sounds refreshing. I mean, I'll take one of those.
That's basically what you get.
Yeah.
It's pretty proof positive of the concept. So
yeah. And so, I mean, he's such a perfectionist. Like he painted it, there was outlines, it got scanned, it got, it's at the whole
had a couple different versions, and we had to kind of settle. The one I chose was a little more violent than this one.
Really? So there's outtakes. I like that.
But I think this one probably translated better to an actual physical can. I don't think Brau would have like really blinked at the violence. It wasn't so over the top, but the one I really preferred, I think it was maybe a little more beating hearts and a little more teeth and claws and stuff like that. I don't remember at this point, actually.
How about you, Jeff? What's your experience with working with Mike? He's a tattoo artist, right? I Speak Tattoo is really his primary work right now.
Yeah, I Speak. I don't have anything from him yet to grace my body. I met him through my partner at the brewery, Brandon Skall. Brandon's been, I don't know how he came to know Mike, probably through the tattoo world. Obviously, these two guys can attest. Brandon likes his tattoos. He's probably about 90% covered. He's only got like some neck left, some room on the feet and the hands. And
I think his spleen is tattooed.
So the biggest tattoo on his body was done by Mike, and it actually became another beer label for us. We do a beer every year. Cool. That's all mosaic IPA called Space Reaper. It's like a 9%, so in the imperial range, but that's artwork from essentially the piece that Mike did on Brandon's back. So now we've probably worked with them, including the band collab, probably 3 or 4 times, definitely a solid 3. But yeah, I mean, the level of, he's one of the more talented artists I think I've met, be it tattoos or be it canvas or whatever. He's just, every time we get a chance to work with him, I'm always all on board.
I love it. Well, something else that I love absolutely is that this collab was organized with a thought pattern in mind. It's not just we like beer, we want beer, our fans like beer. It was like really organized to be a release party.
Absolutely.
Which is smart. And not a lot of bands do that. And it's something that I absolutely want to do in the future when Cryptopsy releases new stuff. But for the extension of you, you guys definitely wanted to have a beer collab. So,
it was
a release party.
Yeah, I think it was also timing. We try to, like you said, we try to get this in time for Brutal North America, and Jeff was like, "There's just no way we can pull this off." So when we started talking, we were talking about August, and then late August, and they were like, "Well, the record's coming out 2 or 3 weeks later. Why don't we just do that?" And then the idea of the show, once we were like, hey, what do you think about having our record release and a show and the beer release all at the same time? And that spawned a whole nother bunch of emails that and then we kind of just hit the ground running. Jason and I are pretty good at kind of, I'd like to think we are anyway, thinking outside the box and trying to do different stuff, not to advertise, but kind of is more like to bring attention to the band. Like you mentioned earlier, our first show was at the Swedish Embassy. As far as we know, we're the only metal band. Sometimes I meet people that work there and like, I saw your band play here. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's me. So having getting Darkest Hour on board and not being able to announce them last minute was pretty cool.
It was so cool.
Having the beer release and the record come out. The record literally came out like the Friday before, Jason, something like that. Because I think records on Fridays now, right, Matt?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, it used to be Tuesdays.
It used to be. I remember it being on Tuesdays too.
Yeah.
So it was good timing, and we just kind of thought that all that press together, involving the label, involving the brewery, would all kind of help each other out in a roundabout way.
Amazing. Jeff, is this something that happens frequently with DC Brau? Do bands play on the floor of your brewery very often?
Not as often as they should. The last time we had a bunch of big bands, so we do like a little dock days that we did this summer off of our dock, but nothing major. Brandon being a deadhead, we had some local deadheads come through, some instrumental kind of drum and bass bands, but not to the magnitude that we did for this show. I would say the prior one was our 5-year anniversary that we did out in our big back parking lot. But the other cool thing about the show is that obviously trying to book shit during the era of the fucking pandemic is like so touch and go. So when we actually like kind of locked everything in, the mask mandate hadn't been reinstated here in DC. And I was really fortunate that it stopped at that. But, there was definitely like at the beginning, everyone's kind of panicking, like, what the hell do we do? None of us have lived through this. What's going on? So we definitely had a moment where it was like, we'll just play it by ear. Then about a week out, we saw local venues that had also started doing shows, just kind of requiring negative tests, CDC vaccination cards. So we did that. Thankfully, didn't get met with too much static. As all metalheads know, like the crowds are always great. For us in DC, I feel we're blessed. We don't get too many assholes coming through. So the security guys, they had a great night. They're happy. I'm happy. It worked out. It was kind of a good, I would say a good litmus test, because the capacity restrictions still haven't been, they're not going to get reinstated. I think we're definitely on the tail end of this thing. I won't like elaborate on it too much, but I was very happy we were able to do a show inside with about 300 people. Everyone had a great time.
Well, and since it was in the warehouse, it's a very big space, although not all of it is usable floor space, but the ceilings are 20 feet high.
Yeah.
And it really felt in a COVID area that like way more comfortable. And I'm not going to say which fest, but I was at a fest recently where, they weren't encouraging masks, but since it was a lot more open, people seemed to be a little freer with not wearing them. And we didn't seem to have that problem at all.
Yeah, no, I would like, it's funny to go back and look at the photos from the show. There's like almost everyone in there's got their mask on.
And there's like 4 people on stage not wearing theirs. It was weird.
But one of the things that was so funny, Matt, like I'm also in the construction world, and I had this like a couple of days before my mother just came downstairs and like shushed me. Thank you, Mom.
Hi, Mama Hamacher.
That's the first time. That's the first time. This is episode 301. That's the first time anyone's mother has come and shushed.
Dude,
and the funny thing, she's at Jason's house.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I've got
Jason's not at her house. She's at his house.
Dude, that was amazing. So I thought, can I tell you a rancid story real quick?
No.
We got time. Go for it.
I'll be here all night.
Look at Blake. So in high school, so this is 1993, I was doing this tribute to Operation Ivy, right? and I had it all set up. Everyone was agreed. I had all these bands from like Sick of It All, all these bands, super official. And their booking agent, Rancid's booking agent, gave me Matt Friedman, like a phone number for Matt Friedman, the bass player. And he was like, yeah, call me at like whatever. Call me at like 9, which is midnight DC time. He was on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had, on a school night, stayed up late and called Matt Friedman. And I was like, yeah, I've got recording studios up and down the East Coast. We're just trying to sound as professional as possible. Nancy Hamacher gets on the phone. Jason? She's like, Jason, why are you on the phone? And I was like, I tried to play it off like it was my roommate. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll try to keep it down. She's like, excuse me? This is your mother speaking. You will get off this phone right now. And I was just like, oh my
I can't
God.
believe your mom didn't let you stay up till midnight when you were a senior in high school.
Hey, let me.
I was already knocking off liquor stores by that point.
So we have a full circle this evening. The whole point to that anecdote was that I was trying to see if we should get air scrubbers, like professional commercial grade air scrubbers. And I got a quote for it. And it's basically you need 1 per 500 square feet. And the guy was like, how big's the space? I'm like 4,000. I called Jeff and Jeff's like, dude, it's 14,000. I was like, this is not viable. We cannot afford this.
We ended up not needing it. Everyone was pretty
Yeah.
cool about it. And since Jason and I kind of were in charge of the event, and like Jeff said, when we first put up the tickets, we didn't say COVID restrictions applied because we didn't know what they were. And my girlfriend was like, hey, you better tell people they need to like bring their Vax cards and the negative test. I'm like, yeah, no, you're right. And then, I had to figure out how to do that in the most easiest way without trying to be alarmist or anything like that. So, I mean, with those, it's a learning experience. I've been out of the DIY booking game for quite a while. So this was definitely cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looked really cool. I wish I was there. It looked like a lot I haven't played
Jason
a show.
was trying to get you down. He's got an Airbnb. And I was like, well, the borders are closed. Like, I can get him in.
I would have loved it. I haven't played a show in a long time. It would have been nice to be bombarded by some heavy music. Now, if you could, we've done one now, but if we could do another collab, what style would it be? What would we call it? Something also drinkable, but we can think out of the box.
We could do it super heavy and call it the Extinction of You. Like that name really lends to that.
It's a good one.
But the really heavy beer, heavy IABVs are just killing me lately, man.
Tell me about it.
I still really like the kind of poundable, drinkable.
Life dream is to have a triple.
Oh wow,
Triple?
Jeff.
Belgian triple or triple IPA?
I mean, I'd love to have a dry Irish stout, but
like Belgian triple.
I love the Belgian stuff. I hope that it comes back. I'm definitely sad to not see it be as prominent as it is in like the IPA age. I was talking with a buddy of mine in the Midwest the other day too, and he's like, I'm not drinking IPAs, I'm drinking Belgian styles. I would love to do a triple. I've already brewed a triple. We used to brew a double for a brief moment in time for Granville Moors.
Was that the orange one?
No, so the both of those beers, the triple got canned once. It was for we kind of brewed it as a for a memorial service for a good friend of ours who was co-owner of, was it Rock and Roll, or I'm trying to remember if you guys would have known this dude. I don't know, but either way, so we called it St. Joseph's Triple. I would be down to fuck with any Belgian beer personally. So
there we go. Collab number 2 announced right here.
I love it. I love it.
Gotta get through collab number 1. Sell that through first.
Let's sell that through first. Let's cover that right now. Jeff, where can people pick up Ambush Predator? Where can they find it?
So Ambush Predator is an exclusive brewery only release. So people can order. We still having to adapt during the pandemic, we have an online ordering system. We do deliveries 1 day a week, but people can order
Local deliveries. You got to specify that.
Yes.
Sorry,
Like,
local deliveries.
So the DC, Virginia.
All in DC and a little bit in Northern Virginia, but coming by the brewery is the best place to get it. Friday through Sunday are hours. We open at 4 on Friday and then noon on Saturday and Sunday. Fridays we're open till 10, Saturdays till 10, and Sundays we close at 6. So
amazing. Blake, I asked you this question last time I had you on a year ago now. I don't know if it's changed over the year, though, so I will throw it back at you. We're going to wrap this up. One last question. A classic wrap-up question at this point for Vox and Hops. What are your hangover cures?
For me, it remains the same: aspirin, sleep, coconut water, or some version thereof. Worst comes to worst, yellow Gatorade.
Yellow Gatorade. So that's the first time I hear that one.
Specifically. But really anything like I really like the body armor stuff because it has coconut water and it has vitamin B in it too. So it gives you a little bit of pep, like kind of wakes you up a little bit. And I still think coconut water in general is pretty gross, but coconut water every time if you can lay back down, a couple aspirin and you're good. But sleep is it.
Jason, you're new to drinking.
In my vast experience. No, I'm actually super into coconut water. Coconut water separately, coffee, not mixed.
Yeah.
Jeff.
I would definitely say coconut water. I like it. I drink it on the regular just because it's good electrolytes. I also highly recommend a good bowl of pho, Vietnamese beef noodle soup.
Yeah.
Kind of always does it for
man.
me. They sell the broth at Whole Foods. So typically for me, I'll just stock up on coconut water, one of these little frozen broths, and then probably a banana.
Interesting.
Water. And
Man,
water.
we are like the least punk rock guys to ever be on this podcast. Coconut water, Vietnamese broth from Whole Foods.
No, I've heard that.
Okay,
I've definitely
so-
heard the pho answer.
Really?
Oh yeah. Something about the salts
that
in it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say as a brewer, if you always have access and you can stomach it, a hair of the dog kind of does the trick.
Bite the dog that
It's
bit
like
you.
a cure-all. So
But you have
Does
to
that
stop.
really work?
It does.
It does, but
then you need to stop.
Right, and then you need to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
Like it works. But like, for example, when Pig Destroyer just played the second day, I was pretty hungover. My third beer in, I would say I was a little drunk already, and then I still to perform, and it was like 3:00 in the afternoon. But I was not hungover anymore.
Sounds like heaven.
Yeah, it was. Fortunately, we played at like 9:30 that night. So
I've only been hungover actually a couple times. One of them involves pho. My wife is Chinese. We would go Chinese from Vietnam. We'd go out and have Sunday. We'd have Sunday pho with the family. I have an art gallery in town. I have a whole lot going on in those openings. And so we went. I drank too much, and I went to eat pho and shared it with the entire bathroom walls and floor.
oh wow, that's not the hangover cure we were looking for here, Jason.
No. That was not the cure. That was the solution. Just hit the eject button, dude. It was
Look how like
wild.
Jeff and Matt and I are like laughing maniacally, like, we'll show you no hangover guy.
Yeah, totally.
His body just rejected it. I love it.
Yeah. Did not work.
Blake, Jason, Jeff, thank you so much hanging out with me, talking about your life, talking about music, talking about Ambush Predator. This was great. Very excited that we collaborated together to create something unique, something crushable, something delicious. I am beyond stoked that we just hung out tonight. Everyone go check out the brand new Zealot RIP. The Extinction of You came out September 10th on 31G, and go pick up the rest of those Ambush Predators at DC Brau.
Cheers.
Cheers to you all. Cheers.
cheers, everyone.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, was this an excellent hang. Man, did I laugh so much. It was just so interesting to get the full picture of this collab. Now, I have been a part of this collab since basically the beginning, as Blake was explaining, but I was more so on the sidelines than any other collab that I've been a part of. So I thought it was super cool to actually sit down with them, have a full conversation to see exactly how this beer came together and what the beer was and what it tasted like, and to hear about the release show. It was just so damn cool. I love the idea. I'm just so proud to be a part of it. The can art is sick. The beer sounds amazing. You should absolutely go pick some up at the DC Brau tap room if you can. Massive cheers to Blake, Jason, and Jeff for hanging out with me and having a good time, because I most definitely had a blast. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should absolutely sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast's mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com, and when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened throughout the past week in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, including all the details for any episodes which I dropped throughout that past week, if I've been a guest on someone else's podcast, any pertinent information for any projects that I have in the works, as well as the updated links to the Brutal Awakenings playlist, which is available on both Apple Music and Spotify, and is curated by my man Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself. So please do me a favor, sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast mailing list, because there's just so much going on. I would hate for you to miss a single thing. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I hope you have a glorious weekend. I will be back next week with one episode dropping on Tuesday, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.